Hello everyone. From today, we are going to practically start the serverless journey. What I mean by practical start, because we covered two videos which is just covered the fundamental basic and concepts, right? But that's must. So if you didn't watch those videos, you must go and watch before this video. So if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because there's so many important things to come. Also, please share this video with your friends and colleagues in your social media. Grab more people as much as you can. Okay, so today we are going to talk about API Gateway, right? If you remember in the last video, I explained there are a few things we can use as a triggering point to do the serverless programming, right? So if we recap a little bit, serverless is nothing but it's kind of a sleeping function, right? Someone has to poke and wake up in order for that to work, right? So we discussed there are multiple things: SNS, SQS, API gateways, S3. So many services you can use as this triggering point. But in our course, mainly we are going to use API gateway, but we are going to do some few other things as well, like SNS and SQS. Okay. So today is kind of an introductory video to API Gateway. I'm going to show you practically how API Gateway works and what are the basic features of API Gateway, right? So if you log into your console, keep in mind I'm going to use North Virginia or otherwise US East 1 region for throughout this course. If you're using a different region in your AWS account, you might slightly do little changes in future videos because you need to specify the current region. Okay, so if you go here, so you can go to search for API gateway. So keep in mind these UIs may little bit different when you using this, right? But it will not be a big deal. You can catch it. So when you go there for the API gateway, so you can see there are four options available you to create APIs. So one is HTTP API, which is a built-in low latency, cost-effective REST API with the built-in features, right? So we have WebSocket API. It's a separate topic we are going to talk about. This is what we are interesting about the REST API, right? And the REST API private. So REST API private we are going to cover in future videos because that is not a big deal. It is kind of a private to your VPC, right? So now it says you are creating our first API, right? So you have few options. You can go with a new API, you can go with the Swagger document or Open API 3 version, or you can go with this example API, right? For me, I'm going to go with the new API, right? So my API name is hello, right? So this is my welcome API, right? So endpoint is I'm going to keep untouched and it will be stay as a regional endpoint. So I'm going to create my API. Okay, here you go. So now we created our very first API, right? So before we move into further in the API, let's understand what the API gateway is. So you are going to build your data center, or you can say it is your cloud, or you can say your stack, you can say your application, whatever you call, you're going to build this inside AWS, right? So AWS, they have a multiple data centers. It's a very huge structure. We are going to discuss in some of future videos how these structures work, right? If you're not familiar with the AWS or the cloud, I have few videos in my channel. You can go and watch those before you get into this. So that has a kind of a basic explanation what is the cloud and what is the API gateway, what is the AWS, and how these things works together, right? How you can build your data center on AWS, right? So what the API gateway means, right? So you have your APIs stored in AWS, but your clients, people who consume these APIs stay outside the AWS, right? They are just kind of can be a local machine, there can be a other website, there can be a Google, there can be some other cloud, anywhere. anywhere but not within the AWS. There can be AWS as well. So now there has to be a place where these people come in and interact with your services, right? So this is the kind of a main door where we expose our API to outside world, right? So now what happens is you have your API, right? So you have a barrier here. So there is a door in that barrier, that is the API gateway. So people come into the API gateway and then API gateway tells you where to go, right? So just imagine you have a secure facility in your office or your home. So you have a security guard in your gate, on your gate, right? So now whenever external person comes, he asking where you go and who are you, and trying to verify whether you are really a legitimate person to come into these premises. API gateway does the same thing, right? So when the request comes, you can configure multiple authorization or authentication mechanism in the API gateway, right? So we are going to talk all those in detail, integrated with the Cognito and OAuth2 and federated tokens, and we are going to do a lot of things, right? So custom authorizers, IAM authorizers, so many things to go, right? But today I'm just going to give a basic introduction. What is this API gateway? In other words, what is the gate and with to our premises, right? So now API gateway is simple term. So someone come in, there is a gate, you verify whether the person is legitimate or not, and you can let that person in and direct to the right place, right? So the security is not must. You can keep an API full open without any security, but we don't do that in a production usually. We always secure that. Right, so now go back here. We created our first API, right? So this is our API. So now we have to create so if you open this action menu, you can see some multiple options, right? To create method, create resource, enable cause. We are going to discuss this too, cross origin resource sharing, right? So if you go to create method, it says let's create a get method, right? So I'm going to create a get method first to our API, right? So now we have a get method. Okay, so in the get method, it's asking what you want to do, right? So lambda function, HTTP, mock, AWS service, or VPC link, right? So if not, you can create a resource as well, right? So you can create a resource, right? So you can create a resource saying hello, right? If you don't want to expose this directly, so you can say hello. This can be anything, right? Or you say welcome. Since I named the API as a hello, to avoid the confusion, I'm going to mark this as a welcome, right? So you can enable the API gateway calls from here as well, but for this demonstration we don't need any cause configuration, so I'm just going to skip that, right? So now I create the resource, right? So now you can see if I create a method here, it will directly go with the API, right? So to avoid this, let me to remove this delete method. So then later on I'll show you creating that separately, right? So now I have a welcome method, right? Inside that, now I'm going to create a inside the resource, I'm going to create a method. Okay, so I'm going to create this as a get, right? So now what happens is, since we create the resource first, now the URL will be your API/welcome, right? If you created a method without a resource, then directly it will hit to the root of your API URL. I'll show you that. So from out of these functions, I'm going to use a mock as a first one, because that will be very easy you to understand. So I'm going to save this, right? So now we are going to build our mock service, right? So you can see here, you get the request method, right? And then integration request is a mock, and the integration response, so that means it doesn't go anywhere, right? So if you come to the API gateway, there is a mock response we set in the API gateway, and then it will go back as a response, right? So let's create some response message here. So what you can do is you can go to this integration response, right? So you can see here the 200 response, right? If we go to mapping template, I'm going to go with application JSON, right? So let's create a simple mapping simple response, right? So let's say code is 200 and okay, so I just create a code and message here. Okay, so then I'm going to save this. Okay, so and save this too. Okay, so if you go back here, right, so if you go back to this one, so you can see in the get, right, so you have this, so output is passed through, yes, because I don't have to do anything with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this, right? So I don't need any parameters, I just going to test. So that now it says, right, so welcome to API Gateway, this is mock response, right? So that means we just create our API, it's work fine. Okay, so here you can test this from here as well. Now you need to deploy this, right? So still no one can outside access this, right? So in API Gateway we build the API, right? But if you need outside world to access this API, you need to deploy this, right? So what we can do is we can come here to our API and we can say deploy API, right? So deployment can happen for multiple ways. So I'm going to create a stage here, so dev, right? I'm not going to add any description. So usually when you create a stage, the stage will come as a part of your URL, right? You can avoid this. There are multiple ways to avoid. So when we do the domain mapping, you will learn this, right? So now you have a API URL here. You can say it. So I'm going to call this, right? So now remember, when the API creation, I didn't create any method on the root of the API. Right, so that's why it says no method there. So now I'm going to say welcome. Right, so now you can see the response I created, the response message I created comes here. Now say this one. Okay, so I go back to my API. Okay, so I go back to my API. So this is my API, and what I do here, I come here to my get response and I go here and I'm going to change the message a little bit. Okay, so mapping template, so JSON mapping templates, I'm going to say mock response version 2. Okay, I'm going to save this and I'm going to save this, right, and I'm going to refresh this. Right, you will see nothing comes. See, nothing comes up, right? Why? Because though we change, we didn't deploy, right? So we need to make sure every time you change the API, you need to deploy this, right? So you deploy again, right? So you come back here, now you welcome, still it didn't come, nothing, right? So now you come here and you open this in another tab, right, and say welcome, right? So now it says version 2, right? So this one is not updated, but this one comes as version 2, but you can see it's the same URL. So now you refresh this again. Now it comes as version 2, right? So what I try to show you here, there can be caching involved where you get little confused whether your changes didn't apply, right? So don't get confused. It's better load again or clear your cache or do this, because there can be a certain caching involved which can mislead for your response. Okay, so this is how API Gateway works. This is a very fundamental about API Gateway. So in the next video, I'm going to create a Lambda, and then we are going to integrate Lambda to the API. So that means that's a real functionality. Okay. So do this practice, and don't feel that this is very simple, I don't need to try this. No, you must try this, because otherwise you won't understand how this thing works, right? So in future videos we are going to learn serverless framework. So after that you don't have to come to this UI and all those, do this crazy difficulty, unpleasant work within this console. We can do that, all those things from our IDE, right? So we are going to go there, but till that, just do this practice and make sure you're ready for the next video. Keep in mind, I'm only going to support from 7 to 10 days through the comments, right? So or comment or direct messages or anything, right? So you must do this right away and get ready for the next session. Subscribe, share, comment, like. That is what encouraging me to next video better. So stay safe.